It's in progress. I'm going to. Hey everyone, welcome. So I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties. I'm starting to use Riverside where before I was using something else. And anyway, welcome to the Coach MartiAngel YouTube channel and welcome to the Mujer De Éxito Unbounded Woman of Success Without Limits podcast show. Now, you guys all know that when you see things, when you think about things, you always think about, the majority of us at least, think about what's missing. What do we still have to do because it hasn't been done? What are we still trying to accumulate, purchase, buy, have because we don't have it? What is it that we want to eat because I haven't had it in such a long time? So all of those little things sound like a big thing, but let me ask you this. How many times have you said, let's look at what's right today? Let's look at, programming your mind for what's right. Well, let me share with you. Welcome. If you're with me, my name is MartiAngel. I am the host of the Mujer De Éxito Unbounded, Woman of Success Without Limits. And I am so incredibly grateful for each and every one of you, my listeners, as well as my podcast listeners, my watchers. So let's talk about today's episode. Today, you guys all know that I really love being a servant leader. I was a servant leader when I was a principal. I was a servant leader when I was the choreographer of a dance troupe. I was a servant leader, always serving through empathy and doing my best to look at what's right instead of what's wrong. Because did you know that the amygdala wires us to think negative, right? So we really have to work on thinking positive, right? And so through servant leadership and through personal coaching, what we call self-coaching, you seeing what's right instead of what's missing is so incredibly important. So, hola. If you're here watching me on the Coach MartiAngel YouTube channel, make sure you say hello and you subscribe and hit that bell. If you're listening to me wherever you listen to your favorite shows, gracias por estar aquí. My name is MartiAngel and I am the host of the Mujer De Éxito Unbounded. So let's welcome you to another episode of Mujer De Éxito Unbounded. But let me just share a little bit about a preview of next week. Next week, I have an amazing guest. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I've done my research and I've noticed what this guest is all about. And sometimes I think maybe I'm not worthy of having her on my podcast, but that's the critical voice inside your head saying, hey, girl, what do you do to have somebody great like that be on your podcast? Well, let me tell you, I am still working with it, but you know what? The critical voice inside my head says, just tell her that we'll schedule another day. Just tell her this, just tell her that. And then the angel on my voice is saying, stay with it, girl. You are just the one that needs to ask whatever questions need to be asked. You are worthy. I am deserving. Right? And so anyway, let's talk about that show next week when we have her on. I'm so incredibly excited. I'm not going to say her name yet because you're going to go and look her up. You have to wait. You have to wait, but stay tuned and make sure that you subscribe and hit that bell if you're watching me on the Coach MartiAngel YouTube channel so you never miss a live. And if you're listening to me on Spotify or wherever you listen to your favorite shows, gracias por estar aquí. Make sure to tune in next week as well. So let's talk about, what are we talking about today? We're talking about how in servant leadership, we lead with empathy, which means that we focus on what's right instead of what's wrong, right? So what do we do on this podcast? If you've never been here before, it's about mindset, it's about leadership, it's about tips and tricks. I call them tricks. Tricks about how to build your business and rock six figures in a way that feeds your soul and your bank account, right? I'm your host, MartiAngel, the Latina biz coach, multiple streams queen, helping you create the life and the business that you truly deserve with ease, joy, and flow. But like I said before, today I want to talk to you about something that changed the way that I lead, changed the way that I coach. Yes, I changed the way that I coach and live as well. I'm now living in a different world, one that I've created myself. And it sounds hard, but it's something very simple. Yet it's so simple that it's so powerful, right? So this is called empathy. Empatía. Not just empathy as an idea. I'm talking about servant leadership, right? Si tienes tu empatía y eres una líder que tiene compasión, que tiene empatía, girl, you have it all. Servant leadership through empathy is learning to see what is right instead of what is missing. Society is always showing us what is missing. Social media is always showing us what is missing. With all of the influencers showing off their dollar amount, their big house, their this, their that. The problem with all of that is it's focusing and drowning us more in the negativity of what's missing instead of conditioning ourselves to notice what is right. What is the blessing that I have today? What did I wake up with? I woke up with a beautiful, outlook in life. I woke up, I have the eyes to see, the ears to hear, the fingers to touch, the arms to hug, the heart to feel, the voice to talk. I mean, and I can go on and on and on because I do this every morning. Every morning when I open my eyes, I say, thank you, Lord. Thank you for the eyes to see, the ears to hear, the mouth to speak, the nose to smell. And I go through this all the time, and it's become a little game with me. And I do this. This is my wake-up game. So if you want to know more about my wake-up game, make sure that you subscribe and hit that bell and leave a comment in the description below. But let me take you back for one momento. When I first stepped into leadership, cuando apenitas estaba yo queriendo ser una líder, right? Una líder. Before all the titles, before all the business, before the podcast, I was a school principal. Now, if I go through my life, I always have noticed that I'm always being pushed up into a leadership role, right? I went from a regular dancer to a principal dancer to then being chosen assistant choreographer, lead dancer for my first part of my life. And then, when I became a teacher, I was pushed up to be a mentor teacher. And then from a mentor teacher, I was pushed up to be an assistant principal. And then from an assistant principal, I was pushed up to be a mentor tech teacher. And then from there, I was a principal. And then from there, I went to college. So I've touched all ages. And I'm always being pushed into leadership. And one of the things that somebody said to me was, the reason that you get pushed to leadership is because you are empathetic. You're what I call a servant leader. I had never even heard that term before. But my assistant superintendent, who was my supervisor, said to me, you're a servant leader. And so, but going back before I heard that, like so many of us, I believed that my job was to fix things. If a student was falling behind when I was a teacher, we created plans. We created a goal to get to where they wanted to be from where they are to want to be, right? A blueprint, if you will, a blueprint for success. And if a teacher was struggling, I set up an improvement plan. And then I set up improvement plan meetings. So I make sure that we were moving in the right direction. And these meetings were not to highlight anything that still needed work or that was quote unquote wrong, but more like, okay, what are you happy with that you did last week? And what can we build upon this week? That's basically how I set up the improvement meetings. Everything was about what needed to be corrected when the teachers came in, right? Everything was about that. And one day, I remember that I was walking down the hallway from another long data filled meeting. And you know, the kind of meeting that's like, oh, you just take a deep breath and just kind of so glad and leave it all behind me. The kind where the air feels heavy because you talked about what was not working, what we were still lagging. And that's what happened in the principals meeting. I remember so clearly, all the principals were sitting there, and then, you know, the assistant superintendent and the superintendent would say, okay, this school has lost this amount of students. This school has lost this amount of percentage points in their test scores. This school, and I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. And instead of saying, let's share what's right. And, you know, so that's what was happening in the principals. And so I would walk around the hallways thinking, how can I change the stigma of always, you know, the kids, what are we doing for the kids that are right? What are we doing? So then we started to brainstorm, and we ended up having what we called merit assemblies but that one day that I'm talking about, that one day as I passed a classroom, I saw a teacher sitting quietly next to her student, and she wasn't correcting him. She wasn't scolding him. She was just listening. I remember so clearly because I thought, she's got her hand on her chin, and she's looking straight at the student. I know she's listening. She's fully intent and fully present. And I'll never forget that moment, because that young man's face and that young man's shoulders dropped. His face softened and he began to talk. He sat up instead of slouching. And it hit me that I was witnessing servant leadership. That was empathy in acción. That was so incredibly important for you to understand que esa empatía, lo que yo estaba viendo en ese salón de esa escuela, was empathy in action. Amigas chulas hermosas, that was so heartwarming for me to see that. You see, empathy is a mirror, not a magnifying glass. Let me repeat that. Empathy is a mirror, not a magnifying glass. See, empathy doesn't look for what's broken. It reflects what's beautiful. When we lead with empathy, we stop scanning for flaws and we start seeing potential. Empathy, hermosas, says, te veo, I'm watching you. Te escucho, I'm listening. Y te valoro, and I value you. I see you, I hear you, and I value you. And when people feel seen, they rise. They do better, not because you demanded it, but because they felt safe enough to show up fully. That, my friends, that, amigas chulas hermosas, that is servant leadership. Eso es lidiar como alguien de servicio. It's heart-centered. It's human-centered leadership that focuses on connection, not correction. Let me repeat that. We are all wanting to get to that point, I know that I am, where we have human-centered leadership that focuses on connection, not correction. And that, amigas chulas hermosas, is the beauty of everything. It's the beauty. It's the beauty. We focus on connection, not correction. We were never taught this in school. I know. I wrote curriculum for schools. I know. I was on loan for the Department of Education for a while, and I can tell you, I promise you, we were never taught this in school. And you know what? Nobody ever taught this. Nobody. In school, we learned math, we learned grammar, we learned science, we learned technology, but we did not learn how to manage our emotions and how to act with empathy and how to be a leader without needing to push anybody down. We were never taught. Would you agree? We were never taught how to listen with our hearts. From an early age, we were conditioned to notice what's missing. What do you still, I remember watching my first grade teacher handing out things, and who still doesn't have a book, and who still doesn't have a pencil, and who still doesn't have an answer sheet, and how about raise your hand if you already have an answer sheet, a book, and everything else. And then we go and we walk and we deliver to the people that aren't raising their hand. Whoa, what a concept that would be, ¿verdad? What a concept that would be. Oh, my friends, I would love to start a school and just let it be like that, where we would teach leadership, where we would teach servant leadership, where we would teach empathy, where we would teach the beauty about connection, not correction. Whew, we didn't do it right, but we always were told what we still needed to improve. And for the longest time, people would say, write down your weaknesses so you can convert them into strengths. And here's what I say. Nope. Raspberries, nope. We are far from the goal when we look at what our weaknesses are and try to convert them into strength. Do you know how much energy is wasted trying to create a weakness into a strength? No, let's try connection, collaboration instead. Let's focus and let's be honest about our weakness. Hey, I'm not really good at this, so I'm going to find somebody who's really good at that, and we're going to work together, and her expertise is going to make my expertise shine, and my expertise is going to make her expertise shine. That is collaboration over competition. My two favorite things: collaboration over competition and connection over over correction. But life, mi amiga chula hermosa, isn't about chasing perfection. It's about embracing progress. When you focus on what's right in yourself, in your team, in your familia, everything begins to shift. Your energy changes. Your leadership becomes magnetic, because what you focus on, amigas chulas hermosas, and I'll say this over and over and over, otra vez y otra vez, what we focus on expands. Now, let me share with you 3 simple ways, tres maneras to practice empathy daily. And as I share these, remember, these are very small, and you're probably going to laugh at me and you're going to say, ay, Marti, But these are 3 small but powerful ways that you can start leading with empathy today, ahora. So let's go through them. Okay. Number 1, pause before you react. Simple, but it is the most difficult thing in the world you will ever manage. Pause. Why? Because you have to notice that you're going to be reacting, and we all can feel that energy. It starts right here in the lower chakra and it moves up through the chakras until it comes out through our throat chakra, because we are reacting. We react with our words. We react with our emotions. We react with our face. We don't have what's called, that somber face, or, that card playing face that called, where you don't show reaction. That's right. Amigas chulas, when something goes wrong, I want you to do this instead. Take a deep breath, hold it, exhale, allow your shoulders to relax, and ask yourself, what might this person be feeling right now? What might this person be feeling right now? That 1 second of reflection can change the entire tone of the conversation. Sí, cierto, cierto, cierto. Truth, truth, truth. All right, let's talk about number 2. Number 2, acknowledge the effort, not just the results. For the longest time, I was, one of the top 10 contenders in my network marketing company, which I still love and I still do, and I still enjoy it. But in my team, I wanted results. And instead of acknowledging the effort, like my leader was telling me, I focused on, no, let's focus on results. Even though I had learned my lesson as a principal, I still wanted to focus on results. And let me tell you what happened. I started to lose team members, right? I started to say things like, I noticed how much heart you put into it. Once I noticed that I was losing team members, I started to realize that I was losing my servant leadership empathy. So I began to ask myself this question. What is that person in front of me feeling? And then I started to say, I noticed how much heart you put into this. And that sentence opens more doors than any critique ever will. Let me repeat that sentence. Make sure you write this down. Hermosas, chulas, escriban esto. Me fijé cuánto corazón invertiste en esto. I noticed how much heart you put into this. And that sentence, like I said, opens up more doors than you can ever imagine. Number 3. Ready for number 3? Choose softer words. Replace what went wrong or what did you do wrong, right? Even as a mother, we're looking at the kids and we said, what's wrong? How about we just rechange that and say, what's right? I bet you if you asked your child what is right, they would probably be taken back and look at you, and it would take longer for them to answer, because they would feel like, oh, the little wheels, the cogwheels in their brain are working backwards or working forwards. They're all confused because we're always asking, ¿Qué pasó? What's wrong? Ask instead, what went right today? What did you learn? What new learning did you get today? Because I promise you, hermosas chulas, when you shift your language, you shift your leadership, right? And if you need daily reminders to keep your thoughts in alignment with this kind of leadership, download my 𝗬𝗢𝗨𝗣𝗢𝗀 app. It's an app I created. It's a bilingual app that gives you affirmations, mantras, whatever you want to call it, if you use it every morning to reprogram your mindset, your words, your energy, and your leadership will flow from love and not from fear or lack. Because fear and lack are what's keeping us in the negative world chaos that we're in right now. But empathy begins with you. You can't pour compassion into others if your own heart is running on empty. Empathy starts, hermosas chulas, with how you treat yourself. La empatía empieza con ti misma. Empieza con ver cómo te estás tratando tú misma. How much love do you give yourself? I used to end my days thinking about all the things I didn't finish, and I would write them, everything that I have left to do tomorrow. Now I pause, I take a breath, and I tell myself, today was a good day. Everything I needed to get done got done. Thank you, Creator, for guiding me. And I always say to myself, I am so happy. Today was a good day. Tomorrow's going to be even better. Now I pause, I take a breath, and I tell myself, hice lo mejor que pude con la energía que tenía hoy. I have done everything in my power, the best I could with the energy I had today. Let me repeat that. I did the best I could with the energy I had today. That one sentence brought me peace, because being a servant leader isn't about pushing harder. It's about showing up from a place of fullness, kindness, grace. When you fill yourself with empatía, you naturally overflow with it. It just overflows into your relationships, into your business, into your community. So, amigas chulas hermosas, take it from me, MartiAngel, the host of the Mujer De Éxito Unbounded. Start today, amiga. Download the Mujer Poder Palabras app and make it part of your morning ritual. Let it remind you to speak with kindness, to lead with heart, to focus on what's right with empathy, because what you speak, you create. Cuando tú hablas, estás creando cosas, tienes una energía magnífica. So let me just share with you how important it is for you to understand that your words create your reality. Remember, empathy isn't weakness, it's strength. Let me remind you, empathy isn't weakness. It is the strength that you find in your heart. It is the kind that transforms teams. It is the kind that transforms businesses and familias. And isn't that what love is all about? So, hermosas chulas, when you choose to see what's right instead of what's missing, you become a powerful servant leader, and you lead not from your head, where your ego lives, but from your essence and your heart, which is where your soul lives. Your soul doesn't live in your head, in your brain, right? Your ego does. And what is ego? Whenever you speak in ego, remember that you're edging God out. Speak instead from your essence, from your corazón. And that, amigas chulas hermosas, is what makes a true Mujer de Éxito Unbounded. Now, Hermosas chulas, if you found this message beneficial for you, I'm promised that you'll find it beneficial for somebody else. So please help me to spread this message of positivity, this message of servant leadership, this message out to all the mujeres, my BIPOC, my Latina entrepreneurs, my Latina businesswomen, everybody. Share it out so that we can help others succeed. Because when others succeed, you succeed. When you help others succeed, your success is right around the corner. Hermosas chulas, if you're still with me here on the Coach MartiAngel YouTube channel, remember to subscribe and hit that bell and drop a comment below and I'll send you a gift. Gracias, hermosas, for spending this time with me ahora and with me on another episode of Mujer De Éxito Unbounded. Who is ready to lead with love and empathy? Raise your hand. Are you ready? Until the next time, besitos, bendiciones, un fuerte abrazo. Thank you so much for being with me. I am so incredibly grateful for each and every one of you, my watchers and my listeners. If you're listening to wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, gracias por estar aquí. This is your host of the Mujer de Éxito Unbounded, MartiAngel, saying adios, gracias, have a beautiful day. Namaste. Thank you, thank you, thank you so, so much.